DAO is a new way of investing into real-world assets. Individuals are able to invest into a diversified portfolio. This can include untapped commodities, natural resources, and real estate. With the use of blockchain technology, Kula DAO brings these traditional investment practices into the modern world. This makes investing in such lucrative and profitable markets more accessible and lower risk for investors. In the example of natural resources, information on mineral rights, geographic surveys, price discovery, even ethical and environmental practices are made public on this secure ledger. This level of transparency is groundbreaking, making investors better informed and more confident in where they place their money. Local communities who are often overlooked and exploited are for the first time protected and incentivized through profit sharing in Kula DAO. Through its unique structure, all stakeholders are given a voice, where they are able to meaningfully partake in the decisions that impact both their lives and livelihoods. Kula DAO aims to align the interests of all stakeholders, and in doing so, generates profitability and shared value. A win-win for all. Join our community now.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you everyone who's joining us now for our 27th AMA for Kula. Kula is an impact investment vehicle, and we are building using the blockchain. We seek to bring transparency to natural resources and benefit investors through transparency, but also look to benefit the communities around these natural resources. Sometimes the forgotten individuals that are impacted by mining or the use of these natural resources, they're impacted by it on a daily basis. So we want to benefit those community members by profit sharing and giving them a voice or governance. So we are Kula, and the very bottom line of what we do is we are an impact investment vehicle, searching all over the world to build a big portfolio of real world value, and backing our token with a portfolio of that real world value. So thank you all for joining us. As you know, this is an AMA, an Ask Me Anything or Ask Us Anything. So with that being said, please post your comments, your questions into the Q&A box while we even give our updates, so that there can be a queue of questions ready for us to answer when the time comes. Now, we are an investment, and so we ask that you do your own research, your own due diligence when it comes to investing into Kula after launch. Every investment is risky. There is potential risk involved. So again, we ask that you do your own research before investing into the Kula project. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Sam and let him give his updates for this week.
Yeah, thank you, Micah. It's great to be here once again. And yes, last week Chris and I were in London hosting, well, really joining two events as speakers or a panelist. And sandwiching between these, it's tons of meetings, and it's just wonderful to meet so many like-minded individuals, companies, organizations, and really speak to them how our double DAO ecosystem could be used, why we do the things that we do, and how to benefit the greater community using blockchain. What I found was, number one, we are probably one of the most legitimate projects out there. And two, many people are saying Kula DAO is probably one of the best and most appropriate usage of blockchain. So really, that just confirmed like what we had as an idea a couple of years ago, and now being implemented and applied in the real world. So it's really a great honor to be viewed that way. So keep up with the momentum, and I really appreciate everyone participating in our DAO and moving forward with this implementation of our strategy, really. Let's see how the world respond further once we receive more clarity on regulation and token listing. So back to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Now you're going to be seeing his face a little bit more frequently now, but I'd like to introduce you to Paul Jackson, for those of you that haven't met him yet. Actually, Paul, I'm not going to do a long intro. I think if I let you just kind of speak for a few minutes about who you are, what you do the project, and what you've been working on for these past couple of months, that would be wonderful. So again, Paul Jackson.
Thank you, Micah. Thank you to the community and all those that are joining us today. I'm a certified accountant by trade. I've been working in the regulated and privately owned space for over 25 years, and the last 15 of those at a directorship or a C-suite position. Earlier this year, I was introduced to Kula, Micah and Chris in London, and for best part of 6 months, we've been working together, and I've been supporting them with their application to VARA, and I was honoured to be offered the position as Chief Compliance and Risk Officer, which commenced officially at the start of this month. So thank you for the opportunity to support you all. It's been a very positive month for us, probably in October, since the last AMA. As some of you may have seen, we have accepted the engagement of Grant Thornton as the Dubai entity's auditors. While this is a VARA specified requirement for obtaining a license with them, good corporate governance almost encourages you and mandates you to basically get your financial statements looked at by a third party. For those of you that don't know Grant Thornton, they are in the top 10 largest financial institutions in the auditing and accounting space globally. For us to work with them here in the UAE and for them to look at the Kula project, assess all the internal details that we have to provide as part of our due diligence and onboarding requirements. As you can imagine, they have very high standards of a regulatory framework and their own policies and procedures to adhere to. And for us to receive that letter of engagement from them really does provide me with a lot of confidence, and the community should be very proud of what we've achieved in order to get them to be our audit partner. So fantastic news for us, and one further step along the journey to obtaining our license here with VARA in the UAE. In parallel to that, part of my work with the founders has been looking at the group structure. As you are aware, we have a double DAO framework, but currently there's probably no global consensus about the best way in which to operate that in what I would call the conventional Web 2 legal framework. So we've been basically putting a lot of time behind the scenes into understanding not just where Kula is today, but where we are aspiring to grow over the coming months and years. So we've been looking at different jurisdictions and seeing how those legal frameworks from the Web 2 space can offer the DAO members and the Kula community limited liability protection so that they have complete confidence in being able to participate through our smart contracts and enjoy the benefits and some of the upside of what the governance protocols allow them to access. So at the moment, we've just established a new holding company. This will allow us to basically put the other subsidiaries underneath that, all owned 100% within the Kula community. And this process will be ongoing probably between now and the end of the year, I would suggest. We'll be able to provide more specific updates once we have all those in place. As you can imagine, we are needing to seek regulatory and general legal sign-off for establishing these companies. And so while they are, in some instances, relatively quick to establish, there's still a huge amount of due diligence work, know your customer work that our counterparties need to undertake in order for these entities to be formed. But exciting times. It really will provide a solid foundation to allow Kula to operate its regional DAO investment protocols. And then, as we've talked about and alluded to previously, how we can then offer our white labeled services to other clients globally. So some exciting times ahead, and it's been a pleasure working with the founders, the wider Kula team, and it's a pleasure to meet and be introduced to the community. So thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. He is an absolute pleasure to have on our team. Definitely taking us to the next level organizationally, and even just to have a presence right there in Dubai. That's been a huge help in and of itself. So thanks again, Paul. Appreciate that. Chris, if you want to tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to also weigh in and say how it's been great working with Paul, and I think both the competency and the level that's raised our game as a business has been fantastic, but it also makes a really loud statement in Dubai with the regulator and the various different entities and institutions we need to get compliance with. It's really been a very substantial stake in the ground for Kula moving forward. So it's been great working with Paul, and really happy for what that means for both us as a business and the project moving forward. Also, so yeah, you guys may have tracked or may not have tracked. About 3 weeks ago, we were pushing the community everywhere we possibly could to vote. And we went for an opportunity that was given by the Blockchain for Good Alliance, which is a foundation, a non-profit foundation out of Bybit, one of the larger central exchanges. And we were successful. We managed to get into the top 10. We were selected from 274 different organizations and blockchain businesses or projects that applied to get to the finals. And actually, we were the top organization in terms of votes, and they got into that top 10. So from the different applicants that had applied, they chose 10 based on community vote, and also just the protocol with regard to what's called the Sustainable Development Goals, which are there's about 17 different kind of areas that the UN measure in terms of impact, and yeah, those 17 areas break down into lots of different areas of, or more granular kind of metrics of how they do measure, like the changing the amount that an individual gets each day into their income. So below $1.25 a day is poverty, above that is not. And so they're trying to move those metrics forward all the time, and it's an enormous piece of work that's been done, and really how the UN organizes itself. So blockchain's got a lot of solutions to address those issues. And one of the cool things about what we do in our work is we do right. We're doing impact investment, right? We're all working together to invest into projects to see transformational change on the ground in the places that we work, which is really the heartbeat and the core of where we started when we thought about Kula 4 years ago. And so it was a great opportunity, could not miss it, and it was the first event of its kind. We, as you know, with what Sam was saying, we've been with last week, but this year we've been to probably 10, 15 global events for crypto, blockchain, Web3 exposure, and this is the first one that I've known about or seen that is focused on impact. So it was a great opportunity, great to get in. So Paul flew out with me. We were in Bangkok actually on Monday, which was yesterday. Yeah, it is yesterday. I literally just got off a plane, as did Paul this morning back home, and we did really well. It was great to be represented there. It's the beginning of the DevCon week, in another blockchain kind of focus week in Bangkok. Great to be part of the event. Really wonderful to be showcased with the other projects, some of which were fantastic, some of which were okay, maybe not necessarily what I thought would be there, but then there's still some really innovative and very creative ways of solving real world problems using blockchain technology. My personal perspective is that we were the best and should have won, but we didn't. We did really well, and the 3 projects that were selected in the top 3 also very great. I still think we were best, but it was wonderful to be represented there. We walked away with a big check. You'll see on the social media as showing off this big check for what we did win, which was really great. But I think the real win was just the exposure. We were known now to Bybit, one of the largest central exchanges. At the end, they were saying statements such as, "You are now one of our organizations. We will go to bat to you and fight for you in whatever you need moving forward." So just some wonderful credentials and permissioning for moving forward in a larger collaborative network, but also just great for the exposure in terms of what we do and what we say we're about. So it was a real privilege to be there and to do that. So yeah, happy to be home, and looking forward to what's next.
Great. As you can hear, there's lots of momentum, lots of movement forward. I know we say it frequently that the finish line is close, but if you can hear it in any of our voices, all of our voices, we're all starting to get really excited because a lot of our biggest obstacles are coming down, and we're getting past them, and really gaining that traction towards that launch. So exciting times. We are feeling more recognized in the blockchain space. Kula DAO is becoming a little bit more known worldwide, just as we go from conference to conference, and we have to explain ourselves a little less each time. People have heard of us, and that's really exciting for us. But all of that to say, we've got the progress moving forward. We've got a lot of progress with funding project, and moving forward, we're just feeling more and more positive that this thing is going to not just launch, but launch very soon. So all of that, I think that covers our updates, gentlemen. So we can probably move on to, there's a couple questions that have been listed here. The first one, let's see, do the Nepal hydroelectric dams need to be built? What's the time frame for Nepal project? When will revenue begin to kick in? The first part of that is actually we're not going to be building hydroelectric dams per se. So the infrastructure of Nepal, that's what they used to do, is build giant concrete dams. But because of the seismic activity, too many earthquakes, and frankly landslides, cannot sustain these big dams. So we are partnering with another organization. I'm just going to say we're going to use different technology. We're not building big dams, but there's very efficient ways of bringing in hydroelectric power that does not take years and years to build a dam, or tens of millions of dollars just to maintain a giant dam. So this is much smaller scale, but still produces electricity with very little impact environmentally. And that's the most exciting part. Is we're going to be partnering with an organization that has done this elsewhere in the world and are going to help us do this in Nepal. It's a fairly quick install, and we can have hydroelectricity running anywhere from 3 to 6 months once the project is fully funded. So, yeah, those are kind of general, vague details, I know, but again, we're only announcing first just the partnership with Big Land Hydro, and then as we start to, we've capitalized it some, and as we continue to capitalize that project and sign documents bringing the technology into the space, into the country, that's when we'll start announcing more of these, the timeline structure as far as the hydroelectricity. Oh, let's see. Chris, do you want to take, Chris or Sam, you want to take this next one? How does Kula integrate each project onto the blockchain under the Double DAO framework? Does each project and iteration go onto the global blockchain twice?
Go for it, Sam.
I saw you unmuted and you're excited too. Yeah, so Double DAO is really about like, so when we make impact investments into different projects, we create a DAO for that particular project so that the community can participate in the decision-making process. So as we expand into multiple regional DAOs and regional investment projects, it needs to have some sort of structure. So for example, how the due diligence process is carried out. You know, there are many business operations that need to be optimized, marketing, you know, just financial assessments, and help to even report back to the world. So it needs to have this organization sitting on top, if you will, that does all that. So the idea is this basically, why don't we make the organization on top a DAO as well? So hence the Double DAO ecosystem. So it doesn't mean each of the project will be integrated into blockchain twice. It just means that there are kind of two layers, if you will, and the top organization is also a DAO that help these regional impact projects to take off. So that's a basic explanation for a Double DAO framework. I can probably take the next one as well. Do you have a moment to address the current or future interoperability issues with other blockchain or traditional financial system? So that's two like almost like completely different questions. In terms of interoperability, we are writing the code in Solidity on the Web3 side. So it's kind of like a bet on ETH ecosystem. It's one of the largest, right? I mean, I think the whole point for creation of Ethereum is to have a decentralized computer, and it's doing really well in that. So with that, many blockchains are based off of Solidity and ETH, some sort of branch off of ETH. So it shouldn't be a problem for us to move to a different chain, if we will. So like it's we don't see a problem there. In terms of traditional financial system, the integration of that is really about there are kind of two layers, one on the financial side, one on the legal side. The financial side is about on-ramp, off-ramp. So for example, if you want to make investment into a project and the investment comes in cryptocurrency, how then do you convert that cryptocurrency to fiat local currency as well to invest into these regional projects? And then when the projects make profit, how then do you take that into the treasury of the DAO, which is, you know, natively a Web3 structure? So if you have a banking system, for example, like implemented, you'll have ways to on-ramp and off-ramp between fiat and crypto. That shouldn't be a problem. But then that's where the legal side comes in, is you have to be enabled in the Web2 world to actually have a bank account. Hence, regulation comes in play. So we spent many years, working on that. And I truly believe we are probably one of the top, if not the only project that's really trying to integrate this process seamlessly between fiat and crypto, and marrying that with real asset. So it's we're making headwinds, of course, in that regard, and I think we're looking pretty good in in leading industry in that step.
Thanks, Sam. And there's a couple of questions on here which I'm going to kind of try and marry together to give an answer to the community on really just how we make Kula really accessible for people that aren't necessarily so native to the cryptocurrency blockchain world. And one of the ways that we make that accessible is by really partnering with larger exchanges. So the dream for Kula is to be listed on one of the larger exchanges. And in the language they call that a kind of a tier 1 exchange. But the problem with tier 1 exchanges is that they only like to take tokens that have got a lot of history and lots of trade. So the way that you get there is you enter on a tier 3 or a tier 2 exchange and have that experience and that growth, and then finally you get listed. You kind of move your way up through the levels of exchange. And so we spent a lot of time really this last year working with the existing central exchanges, which means that it's a centralized regulated kind of space, in order to be able to list the Kula token. And that's important because it makes it accessible then for the global community to access and buy the Kula token. So the smaller exchanges, they all have their own processes and systems of how you would go on and actually purchase a token of a project. And the larger, again, tier 1 exchanges have very, very simple processes to do that, and so do the lower tiers as well. But it's just the accessibility, the brand name recognition. I'm a Formula One addict. I love Formula One, and you see these exchanges listed all over the sides of the cars, or if you follow a Premiership football team, you see the sponsors all over the shirts. So there's a lot of recognition, and that's one way that we're working towards making it really accessible for our investors in the future. But it's a process and it's a journey. So we've done really well. We've locked a couple of those tier 2 centralized exchanges to list on, and we're working towards the tier 1s. So again, this last week in Bangkok, meeting people from tier 1s is just helpful. It just keeps the conversation moving forward, gets our name known, and that's one way that we're working at all of those things, and which is why it's important we spend time going to these conferences. And it's not just hey, we got a nice photo opportunity. We meet some really great people around the processes that love the project, and again, that's with many of you guys on this call, right? At some point you captured the mission of what we're trying to do in Kula and the values that we're trying to do it within. And when we capture people out there in the larger blockchain crypto market and industry, and they say, yeah, that's a project I want to get behind, that's always a win for us. And we keep making those relationships. It's really good for moving things forward.
Excellent. That's great. Okay. Let's see the next one. Even if not launched yet, is the Kula team still growing? Will the team grow even more after launch? What's the best way for the Kula community to help at this time? We are growing when it's absolutely necessary, because we're trying to steward funds wisely. And but when launch happens, yes, we plan on scaling to a much larger team. We're already a large team. We're a great team that's spread across 15 different time zones currently, and that's exciting. But we will be scaling that up after launch, when Kula becomes more self-sustaining financially. Right now, we're relying on angel investors, and in order to steward those funds wisely, we are operating with, I feel like, a skeleton crew. The bare minimum amount of people that really are building this project, but build it well. So we're grateful for that, grateful for our team, and we will be expanding after launch. Community, gents, there's all kinds of ways community can help out. But foremost in my mind prior to launch is going to be just doing whatever you can to retweet, copy, share, like, comment, post about Kula, and telling friends and family about us. Really, just spreading the name and spreading the project is one way that the community can really help. Is there other options in there anybody else can think of?
I know, I totally agree. And I think that's as we kind of start getting towards our launch window now, the impetus and the necessity for us all to be talking about the project in any way, shape, or form we can is the best way that anybody can help Kula grow and help it move forward. And you know, we're all going to be coming to a point where actually all of the work that we've been doing for the last 3 years stops, because that's what we will be doing, and at scale across the entire team. You know, we are very close at that point where it's all hands on deck, and it's communicate, tweet, retweet, share, go find your neighbors and talk to them about the project, and grow the community as best you can. And any work that people can do towards that at this point, I think is just, that's just such a, it's so encouraging to us actually as well. I think when I see the community doing their own artwork and graphics on Telegram or in Discord, or there's tweet posts that come up, or you know, on X that talk about Kula that we've not even originated or initiated, and they're just spot on. It's so encouraging. So yeah, just more of that would be great.
Excellent. The next question's a long one, just about the possibility of mining Bitcoin and Digibyte with our hydroelectric power in Nepal. And when it comes down to, you know, whether you mine tokens with this hydroelectric power or which tokens you're mining, the first thing that needs to happen is the continuation and the finalization of Nepal changing their laws. I was there a few months ago, and they had criminalized everything crypto. You cannot make, you can't do crypto business. You cannot legally mine Bitcoin in their country. But all of that was just on the brink of change. I met with the Minister of Finance and started that process. We've had a shift in the government now, and while we're still very well connected with the current Prime Minister, those conversations have to continue, basically, to make sure this new administration continues with those law changes. But really, there's a handful of ways to monetize this hydroelectricity. As soon as you start putting computing power connected to this electricity, this green energy, now we have carbon neutral computing power. What you do with that computing power, whether you're leasing it out to tech companies around the world who will gladly lease carbon neutral data centers, or if you choose to use that for mining cryptocurrencies, there's a handful of ways to monetize this opportunity just outside of selling electricity. So again, we will get deeper into those announcements as soon as we kind of hammer out those details, finalize things with the government. And but I mean, people are on the right track on how you monetize these water licenses. We just won't announce exactly what we're doing until we have ink to paper. All right, next one. Boy, hello team. Does the change of power in the US help the project at all?
That's one that I don't know if I've got the authority to answer, Micah or Sam.
I mean, anytime we see this market spike, it brings interest in a lot of different projects. I know when you start to see Bitcoin really rolling, the bull market really starting, and more money, new money coming into the crypto market, more eyes are just looking at crypto in general. And so, yeah, it's a great time to launch a project. The problem is it's a great time to launch a meme coin. It's a great time to launch a worthless token and make a few million on it and turn around and pull the rug. That's not what we're out to do. But with all the new eyes looking at the market, with the way this new U.S. administration is talking about becoming, they want to become kind of a crypto hub for the world. We're going to see new regulations, even the ETFs for Bitcoin and Ethereum being approved. All of those brings new eyes into the market, new investors. And then when we start to substantiate a token with real world value, now, so those people that were really nervous about the speculative market or the risk of crypto, they start to see a token that's backed by real world assets. That's going to speak to them, and that's going to bring in more of those traditional investors. So I think we're going to look very enticing to those type of investors, and then to do it in a bull market really helps us. So yeah, it's not going to hurt us, that's for sure.
There's a question here about Cardano. So the guy that initially started Cardano and described that blockchain as a decentralized ecosystem of blockchain technology that's really committed to economic and political and social system improvement. And we actually we looked at Cardano about 2 years ago because again we considered like the alignment of values of what we're trying to do in Kula and what Cardano are trying to achieve is very lot of crossover, and had a good call with them. Met the current CEO of that blockchain, and actually then made a decision to not pursue that direction moving forward, simply because the underlying language that the smart contracts are written in are different and not as versatile for cross-chain interoperability on the underlying kind of smart contracts. So we made the choice not to follow that direction, even though there was a lot of alignment around just the values and kind of intended outcomes of that blockchain project. So we've been around a whole number of different blockchains for our launch, but our contracts are in the basic ERC20 format, which allows us to operate across several chains if we want to at some point. But we've been working towards a preferred chain moving forward, which we're not yet at the point of wanting to communicate publicly, but we'll do in due course.
And there was a specific question that came through on X asking which chain we're going to launch on. So that's the answer. We're not quite there, not quite ready to answer that one. All right. Let's see here. With the ability to monetize the platform, how many clients have you obtained for this? I assume that's the white label.
I guess it is about white label. Yeah, I can.
It must be. You want to kind of ballpark that, Sam?
We have since we opened the white label service, we had 11 projects seeking to partner with us within a week, and then so we're excited about it and everything. And then we have even more exciting news coming about Kula token, right? Our regulation, everything. So we decided to slow down on the white labeling just because scalability wise, we really don't want to spread our team too thin. Currently, it's we want to do these projects well, so it's like really like a white glove type of service. So we found multiple partners that can help us on both the like marketing side, the BD, the business development side, and the crypto side of things, NFT and token. So we are committed to serving the clients that we already onboarded well, and then for the ones that are like interested and it's just kind of start talking to us about it, we are slowing down on taking them on just because we don't want to drop them in the middle of working with them. So that part is going pretty well.
I'm going to answer that last question, if that's okay, on are we working to find projects or MOUs for investment? I think it's both yes and no as an answer to that question. So we've financially modeled and projected between 4 and 8 new regional DAO projects a year moving forward. As we've, in the sequential steps, we launched a project, we capitalize, we can therefore put money into the projects that we've already pre-vetted, which for the next 12 months moving into the next year would be, we've got about five lined up projects, I think, on our financial modeling at this point. And one of which we were really thrilled actually came and found us by applying directly to us on our website, which was really great because it's wonderful. That's the whole point of the process, right? We want to be found. We don't just want to be pursuing our own leads all the time. And that was really encouraging. And Sam and I will actually be going out to Malaysia next month to do our site visit for the due diligence and pre-vetting of that project. So we can understand just the dynamics of it. And the more work that we can put into lining up great projects to capitalize, the better. Because it just, that we've got a fairly robust and kind of ambitious timeline moving over the next 3 years to be adding more solid regional DAO projects into the ecosystem. And that takes time, and there's, I think, for the projects that we do have, we probably said no to probably about 10 for every one that we do take on, simply because we want to make sure we're vetting well and we're making great decisions to protect the upside of the treasury moving forward. And so, yeah, it's not slowed, and yet we've been slowed down this year as we've been getting ready before we can actually capitalize and move forward. So it's a bit of a both and. So yeah, any great projects that you guys hear about, we've got a very clear intake process and a good due diligence process that's followed, and that allows us to vet and pre-vet those projects. And you're very welcome to let us know. Anything really that's got real world value that allows us to look at making good returns that are solid, but also have impact in the projects that we can engage, whether that's North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, or Latin America, South America. We're not beholden to any one region of the world, and quite excited to keep developing in both developed and non-developed contexts as well.
Excellent. Great questions. Great questions. This question for Paul that just came in. Is the UAE regulatory bodies, are they being being easy to deal with day after day? Are they becoming easier to deal with day after day? Are there many other projects currently still waiting for clarity?
Thank you. We have a great working relationship through our lawyers with VARA. They've appointed a new head of supervisory recently, and Chris and I were fortunate enough to meet them, I think, was it October, I believe. Since then, we've had feedback from them requesting a request for further information regarding our AML and CFT, so anti-money laundering and counter-finance terrorism rules, and how Kula proposed to address those issues. So we have, as part of our broker-dealer service application, that's one of the mandatory requirements. And so we were very, very well prepared to answer these questions. There is, as I think the community realizes, a huge demand and interest in obtaining a VARA license. And so I'm sure that behind the scenes, VARA are receiving an awful lot of applications. We aren't privy to that information. We do not sit on the other side of the fence, but all we can do, and which we continue to do on a weekly basis, is offer our support to VARA. We basically leverage the relationships that we have, and basically be as proactive and responsive to any requests as we can be. The submissions that we provided were extremely robust. The lawyers were literally commented about how the high level of submission that we produced for them, that they obviously vetted prior to submission, and we should be very proud of that. So it was close to 1,000 pages of documentation that went in. It's now we've, I guess the old adage, control what you can control. We produced a great submission. We answered all the questions that we could do. We responded in a timely fashion. We continue to do that. And basically, behind the scenes, both the lawyers and myself are reaching out to our contacts internally within VARA to try and obtain updates. And basically, as soon as we know, we'll share that and update the community as we can.
Excellent. Well, thanks everybody. Great questions. And we will continue fighting the good fight, building this project and taking it to launch. Until then, this has been our 27th AMA, and we'll be excited to see everybody again in December for our 28th.
Thanks,
Anything
guys.
else? Any last words, gents?
Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Good you guys again.
Thanks for joining
Thank you.
us.
Pleasure
Bye-bye.
meeting you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.